Hi, and welcome to the Courage Made Simple podcast. I'm Margareta Kull, a mother of 3 courageous young women and a courageous leader trainer. For the past 20 years, I've helped hundreds of leaders from over 50 countries, from senior executives to aspiring change makers, find the courage to face challenges at work and at home. I know firsthand that leading isn't just about work. Whether it's guiding a team at work, setting boundaries at home, showing up for the people who matter most, or navigating other tough decisions, courage is essential in every part of life. It's how we become the people we want to be. This podcast is a space to explore the messy questions of being a leader at work and at home. Through insights, tools, and personal stories, we'll help you find your courage. If you're ready to move from feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or frustrated to becoming a more confident, capable, and courageous leader, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Before we dive in, I'd love to hear from you. What's a challenge or question you'd like me to explore in this podcast? Send me a DM on LinkedIn or Instagram at Margareta Kull. I'd love to hear your thoughts and answer your questions in future episodes. I've created a free, simple guide that gives you an overview of the Courageous Leader process, the 4 steps we're exploring throughout this podcast series. It's a great way to see the big picture and also understand how different tools, such as focus, fit into the framework. You can download it for free at couragemadesimple.com/free guide. Today we're talking about focus. Finding clarity in the noise can feel almost impossible. But without focus, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. So let me start by telling you about Sarah. She came to me some time ago for coaching. She is someone who leads a team in a fast-paced organization, in a fast-paced industry. She started to talk about her workload. We pretty soon realized it wasn't the workload that was the problem. Maybe it was, but the reason she felt that workload was because she was caught in firefighting. And she felt torn because the focus was always firefighting. But she and the top management knew that the long-term vision for the company was important. And everybody knew the long-term vision in the organization. What happened was that every time they were getting close to delivering numbers every quarter, there was a crisis if they didn't deliver on the short-term results. And this is so common in organizations today. Here we have this wise leader who was attracted to the organization because of their values and their long-term vision. But then she realizes that when it comes down to it, it's still about the quarterly financial results. So they had this vision about strengthening their market position, expanding globally, being super innovative in their industry, which they realized was needed to reach the market position they wanted to reach. And they also needed to attract top talent, and probably through sustainability, inclusion, etc. But still, it was talked about every quarter. What you were rewarded on was the financial results. So she felt torn. She felt that she wanted to deliver long term. That was important to her values. She knew it was also important to the organization values. But still, when she was judged, it was based on the money. So think about this when it comes to yourself. Have you experienced that kind of tension? It wouldn't surprise me if it's about lack of focus. So I wonder what this is like for you. Is this something you recognize in your life? And if that's the case, what does it look like? And how often are you actually reacting instead of actively choosing? And also then reacting maybe based on fear. So what is focus about? And what did Sarah actually need? Well, first of all, she knew she wasn't the only one who needed something in the organization. It went all the way from top management, all the way down to the co-workers. And she knew it wasn't a time management or another kind of administrative system that they needed. It was clarity. And she wanted to find a tool that could not only support her, but also, at least in the long run, support the rest of the organization to deliver both short-term and long-term, and to help them stay on track also when things get noisy, because that's, of course, always the challenge to all of us. So we started to talk about Courageous Leader Focus, which is part of the Courageous Leader process. You can read more about it in my book, Courageous Leader, Increase Your Impact by Facing Your Fears, and you will see that it's based on 4 powerful questions. And I'll now walk you through them. Hopefully, help you to see how you can use them in your life, at maybe both at work and at home. The 4 questions are: what is best for the business? What is best for the planet, which includes both nature and humanity? What are your reactions and fears? And what are the reactions and fears of others? So let's imagine you're in Sarah's position and you realize it would be interesting and powerful to ask yourself these questions. So we ask things like, how can we hit the quarterly numbers? How quickly can we close this deal? What do we need to cut to meet the budget? And, for example, what do our investors want to hear in the next meeting? That's what a short-term focus sounds like. If you look at the same questions and explore them from a long-term perspective, they could sound like, how do we build a business model that consistently delivers strong results year after year? Before you just quickly move into a partnership, you ask yourself, is this the right partnership to support our long-term strategy? And you can ask yourself, where do we invest today to create sustainable growth and resilience? And when it comes to investors, you could ask, how do we build lasting value to earn our investors' trust over time? When we stretch the horizon and dare to, because it's often connected to courage, and dare to stop for a moment and ask ourselves what is best for the business long term, we start to make different decisions. More grounded decisions, more strategic, and more honest. What happened to Sarah was that deep down she knew this was the situation. That's why she felt torn. But she obviously had a need to confirm it to herself, and I think that's quite often the case. We do need to sometimes write things down, ask ourselves questions, and especially reflect on things. So what happened to her was that she confirmed to herself that, of course, we need to deliver financial results on a quarterly basis, at least short term, for the business to survive and also to thrive. So it's not a question of not doing that. It's a question of also, so not to lose focus on the need to strengthen market position and expand globally and be innovative. And of course, attract top talent. Let's move to question 2. what is best for the planet, including, of course, both nature and humanity. Every business decision you make ripples out. Something we don't always want to think about, still a fact. They don't only affect our bottom line. They affect our communities, our ecosystems, future generations, etc. When we pause, just for a moment, and ask ourselves this question, what is best for the planet in this situation? We automatically widen our view. Because our decisions don't just have an immediate impact on, for example, our team and customers. Oh no, they also have an impact on people who are not in the room, who don't have a voice today, but who feel the effects of our decisions tomorrow. I could be talking about the environment. I could also be talking about a small supplier. Tiny, maybe, compared to your huge corporation, but definitely still in need of fair business. I could also be talking about children. It could be your children. It could be someone else's children, maybe even far away. Ignoring this question, ignoring this perspective, make us easily feel efficient in the moment, but is rarely wise. As a courageous leader, we dare to stop, because it's often uncomfortable to stop and ask ourselves this question, and especially to ask other people this question. What is best for the planet? But as a courageous leader, we dare to take all our stakeholders into account, which of course includes people we don't see, people we don't feel, and people we don't hear. Question 3. What are your reactions and fears? This is about self-awareness. The things you don't see or name steer you, often without you realizing it. We could be talking about fear of change, fear of conflict, fear of failure, fear of standing out when it's much more comfortable to blend in, for example. When fear drives you, especially subconscious fears, it's easy to react automatically, to react quickly in ways that don't really serve you. They might feel really comfortable in the moment, but they don't serve you or the situation you're in. When you pause and ask the question, what are my reactions and fears in this situation? You give yourself the possibility to stop reacting automatically and start to choose intentionally. It's a huge difference. And that's where freedom begins. Because if you don't notice what's driving you, it's almost impossible to stay focused on what truly matters. Your reactions and fears can easily pull you toward protecting yourself, instead of doing what's best for the business, both short-term and long-term, or for the world around you. Question 4. What are the reactions and fears of others? Understanding others doesn't mean pleasing them. It only means seeing more of a full picture. Resistance almost always has roots. It can be fear of change, fear of losing something important, fear of looking incompetent, or not feeling seen or heard. So when you take the time to notice and listen to what's underneath, your decisions will most likely be more human, more grounded, and probably also more resilient in the long run. So let these 4 questions sit with you for a moment and stay curious. Which one do you actually resist the most? Which one of these 4 questions is more uncomfortable for you to ask, both yourself and others? If you don't take others' reactions and fears into account, you risk reacting to their resistance instead of staying focused and on strategy. But when you understand what's behind it, you can meet their concerns with both empathy and clarity and communicate in a way that supports the direction you know is what's best. The thing is, when you lose focus, you start to be unproductive and also start to be unaligned. You become much more operative, and there's a high risk that you derail from strategy because decisions become much more reactionary. You start to even solve the wrong problems. The other day, I had a senior person coming to me for a coaching session. He was talking about hiring an assistant for another manager who was reporting to him. And he felt that this person was under a lot of pressure, so an assistant might help. When I gave him space to really reflect on the situation, it became pretty clear to both of us that the manager wasn't just under pressure. He was actually a bad manager. So his people were suffering. And also people in that team were suffering. It was just that the person I was talking to, the senior executive, he had had predecessors who had chosen to do absolutely nothing about this situation, probably because it was uncomfortable. So here we have the senior executive who was pretty close to hiring an assistant, realizing that is not enough. I need to solve this problem. The right problem to solve was to replace this person, no matter how uncomfortable it was, because that person had been there for some time. That's what it can look like when you focus on the wrong problems, when you don't take the time to see what's actually going on. Everyone starts to prioritize their own short-term goals. It's absolutely impossible then to move together in the same direction. You might get praised, you might feel great about the praise you get, but you also know underneath that that might not be enough for long term. When you focus on both what's best for business and planet, which means other people also in the organization and outside of the organizations, you start to lead with clarity, courage, and also on purpose. You might not lead perfectly, and it will definitely not be without a challenge. That's for sure. But you'll be honest, and you will feel much more freedom. And so will your people. This isn't just about work. It's about your life. The same complexity, the same noise, it follows us home. Maybe you have children, maybe you have a partner. Maybe you carry the silent hope that everyone around you will be happy and you be the one holding it all together. These 4 questions, they're just as powerful here. Ask yourself, what is best for your personal life? Not just today, but long term. It's easy to get caught up in what feels urgent. And that looks different for all of us. It could be school drop-offs, work deadlines, grocery shopping, fixing the next thing. But when you pause and ask yourself what truly matters long term, the answers often look very different. Maybe, for example, you realize that what matters most to you is building strong, trusting relationships with your kids. Not just getting everyone out of the house on time each morning. It's those everyday moments of connection, not perfection, that actually shape your family over time. So then we move on to question 2. What is best for the planet? Including nature and humanity. This question invites you to step back and see your choices in a bigger context. If you think about the same morning routine, maybe you notice how your family habits often affect more than just your household. The way you consume, the way you talk about others, even the way you treat people in small daily interactions, it's all part of the world you're helping to shape for your children and for others around you. You're not just leading inside your home. You're modeling what kind of community and world you actually believe in. So once you've done that, you move on to the next question. What are your reactions and fears? And you know how they can sneak into even the smallest moments. And if we don't notice them, they can easily pull us away from what we truly want. Maybe on those hectic mornings, your fear is that you'll fall behind at work if you're late, or that others will judge you, both as disorganized or not good enough. When that fear kicks in, it's easy to rush, to snap, to miss the chance to connect with your children in the way you know really matters. Taking a moment to notice your own fear doesn't mean they disappear. We all know that as well. But it helps you stay aligned with what's actually most important to you. And you now know that is building trust, connection, and showing up in a way that reflects the world you want to create for them. And now over to what are the reactions and fears of others? The people around you, like your children and your partner, of course also carry their own fears and reactions. Maybe your children aren't slow in the morning to frustrate you, and they rarely are. But maybe they're nervous about school. Maybe something's happening when it comes to their friendships. They're worried about if they're going to fit in or what their day is going to be like. When you slow down and ask yourself, what might they be feeling? You stay connected to what you decided was most important, which is creating a safe, trusting environment where your children feel seen and supported. When you meet fear with curiosity, and I'm not only talking about fear, I'm talking about reactions, because very often you're not aware that there is fear. You just see reactions and feel the reactions and react on the reactions. When you meet reactions with curiosity in yourself and in others, you build the kind of family and the kind of future you truly want to build. When it comes to these 4 questions now, you don't need to fix anything. I just want you to stop, to notice, reflect, and stay open. Stay curious about yourself and also about others. Let's wrap up with 3 things to take with you from today's episode. 1. Focus isn't about doing more. It's about remembering what matters. 2. These 4 questions help you see through the noise, especially when you don't have the answers, on your own or in a group. 3. Clarity doesn't always come from knowing. It comes from pausing long enough to ask. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If Sarah's story or any of these questions stirred something in you, I'd love to hear from you. Your reflections really help me shape what comes next. And speaking of next, in another episode we'll explore fear. Not just what it is, but why it's important to stay curious about it. Until next time, stay curious, stay courageous, and remember, you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to keep asking yourself and others some questions. Dare to make a difference. Think about this. What's one small courageous action you can take today? And then, remember to grab your free guide to the Courageous Leader process. It's a simple way to see how the 4 steps fit together and start applying them today. You can download it at couragemadesimple.com/free guide. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone who might find it valuable. You can DM me on LinkedIn and Instagram at Margareta Kull or visit our website at courageous-leader.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts and answer your questions in future episodes. That's it. Thank you for listening. Dare to make a difference. Before we wrap up, here is the legal bit. You know the fine print I need to mention. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. I'm just your companion on this journey. I'm not a licensed therapist, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals.